Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It is Morgan here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. If you guys are returning, I'm so happy to be speaking with you guys again. Today I'm chatting outside, so please just pardon me if there's like any sort of weird noises. There's a lot of mosquitoes too, so I might be smacking at mosquitoes, I'm not gonna lie. But this is what we're doing today. I felt like it'd be chill. What I want to talk about today is something that came up recently. I was doing a podcast with one of my friends, Sarah. She had me on her YouTube channel, and I'll link her channel in the description so you can check her out. And it was a really great conversation. I think the video will probably be up by the time this one's up, so I can link that too. You guys should definitely watch it. There was a ton of insights that came up just between our conversation, and I think it was really valuable. And for both of us, it led to like a lot of potential topics for videos and things we want to talk about. So yeah, really great conversation. Go ahead and check her out and check that video out. But yeah, today what I want to speak about is something that kind of stemmed from that, which is essentially like how romanticizing life impacts manifestation and like your central nervous system in general. And there's a couple things I want to say about this. Like, I think I feel like I say this in all my videos, but so many of us come to manifestation when we're in a time where things maybe aren't the best, or like, we're in survival mode. Like, I think so many of us come to manifestation when it's like things are going awry, like things aren't going right, and we need to change them, like we need to fix things. And so when we're in that state, like so often there's situations and circumstances that are keeping us in survival mode. So like very rarely I feel like are we actually in creation mode when we're like trying to manifest. Like so often it's like coming from that forceful energy, and over time we kind of have to calm that down and like shift back into creation mode. Obviously this isn't always the case, but I feel like so often when we're manifesting, like the act of manifesting itself actually puts us in lack. You know what I mean? And I think that's a trap like I've definitely personally found myself falling into a lot, is like when I want to manifest something, it means that I'm trying to make something happen. And obviously like the process of manifestation is like moving into the state of the wish fulfilled, but I think like a really easy pitfall to fall into is like feeling like continuing to feel like, oh, I'm trying to make this thing happen. Like manifestation in and of itself is a wanting frequency. It's a lacking frequency. And so I think that's an easy place to get stuck. And so I kind of want to talk about like how we can move out of that on like a daily basis. And if you haven't checked out my other videos, there's two videos that I think are really relevant for this, and kind of like dovetail off of each other in a way. The first one is how to balance manifestation with actual life, which basically I go into like when your circumstances like aren't what you want, like how can you actually create a ritual and a process like within your daily life that is realistic. And I think that's a really valuable one, because like not so many of us like can't just sit in a room and affirm for like 16 hours a day, or like meditate for 16 hours a day. So how do you realistically like integrate that into your life? And I think this kind of like piggybacks off of that really well. So I would check that one out for sure. The other one I would check out is how to use herbs for manifestation. And that one I talk about like the central nervous system and how to actually use like herbs and supplements to actually like adjust your body into the having frequency. So I feel like these all kind of go really well together. Anyway, what I do want to say is like, I think one of the things, especially in Western culture, that we can fall into is like getting really caught up in like very mechanical living and like very mundane living. And I remember this at a really young age, and at that time I thought that it was just me. I didn't realize this was something everybody fell into. And I think it was just like being in a traditional school system. Like we, in my opinion, like we come to this earth and we're so creative, and like we have so many visions, and we want to play like children, you know what I mean? Like they have so much life, and like they're so connected to source and like their impulses and their intuition. Like they just want to do what they're meant to do. And then I won't get into like the whole school system thing, but we are put into a system, and we do have to kind of warp ourselves and adapt ourselves to then, you know, fit into this system. And I'm not saying, I think obviously like structure is very valuable, and I think there's a lot of use to the system, but I think one of the things that can happen is like it can take away a lot of the life that I feel like we had when we came into this experience, came into life, you know, as children. So anyway, as I was kind of growing up, like I remember once I was actually like kind of integrated within the school system, like I remember like a very subtle shift of just like not being excited about things that I used to be excited about. And I think that's a good illustration of like what kind of happens. Like when we're kids, like everything is exciting. Like there's life in everything because we're awake. Like just the experience of like waking up here and being alive is like so riveting. Like there's so much stimuli, there's so many things happening. Like everything we do is magical. Like a bowl of macaroni and cheese is magical. Like playing in a mud puddle is magical. Like even the experience of going to school at first is like very, very magical. And I just feel like over time, like one of the things we can fall into is like feeling like things lose their magic and feeling like nothing really is that beautiful. And like we just have a long list of things that we have to accomplish and like get done and, you know, kind of get over with. And that's just not life at all. Like to me, like that's the clear distinction between like creation mode and survival mode. And I think like it's so easy in this world to fall into survival mode because that's just sort of the system that we live in. And don't get me wrong, like we are trying to survive in a really large way. So I don't think there's a need to like put pressure on ourselves, because I think it's like a very human thing to do, to be like, oh, like I have to pay my bills, like I have to eat, I have to survive, you know what I mean? But when we talk about manifestation and when we truly do wake up, we realize that like so much of this, if not literally all of it, is within our power, you know what I mean? And we are directly intertwined with our observable reality. And if that's the case, like, do we really have to sit in the frequency of like, I need to survive, I need to be a slave to this, like I need to do all these things that I don't want to do, you know what I mean? And I think it has less to do with like the action and more to do with the perspective of it, because like take that childlike mind, for example, you know what I mean? Like even like things like chores or things that like are inherently like not fun or negative can be so exciting, like through that child's mind perspective. Like that, to me, like that's the perspective of God. Like God is excited to come here and do even the most mundane things, even survive, you know what I mean? Like to me, that's like the higher perspective. Like that's the higher self looking down and kind of almost viewing this as like a game almost, because if you can do that, it becomes so much more light and playful. And I think one of the things that can happen even when we're manifesting is like we're still coming from the very human perspective of like, I'm just trying to change my circumstances, like make this thing happen. But like when you can actually tune into your higher self and that perspective of like, oh, like this is all a game. Like I'm in sandbox mode. Like I get to influence my reality. I get to play. I get to have my hands in the clay. Like it feels radically different. And to me, like that's when things manifest very quickly, because you're not putting all of this density and seriousness on it. You're elevating to a higher dimension. It's a little bit lighter and more playful. I heard once somebody say, and it always kind of stuck with me, which is like people often are trying to like escape the 3D to like get to 5D. Like they're trying to reject the body and like the ego and like all these things. But like you, in order to get to 5D or like the higher dimensions, you actually have to go through it. And that's because Source, God, your higher self, views this as a very beautiful thing. You came here for a reason, and it's fun. It's fun to play in these things. And when you take that perspective, even the heaviest of things just feel so much more light. I always like to look at it like a Sims game almost. You know what I mean? Like when you're playing a Sims game, you're not in survival, you're playing a game. Like you're like, oh, like let me feed my sim, let me do all these things. Like the process, even though everything in that game is mundane, well, not everything, but like you get what I'm saying? Like it's just people living life. That's literally what the game is, you know what I mean? Like even though things are mundane in there, you are in play mode, you're in creation mode. And so I guess like one of the things I felt like has revolutionized my manifestation journey is taking that perspective of like kind of stepping back and like taking an elevated stance on life. And like to me that does a couple of things, like just basically like romanticizing every single thing that you do in your life. And we're seeing these movements a lot, like getting discussed on social media, which I love, like even like romanticize your life and like the main character energy and like your life's a movie, like, and I'm so for it, you know what I mean? And I think like if we take it a step further and kind of talk about manifestation, like when you are just trying to get through things and get things done and aren't really viewing things as like beautiful or exciting or magical, like to me it's like a very low and like contracted energy, and it's not enjoyable. You're not enjoying the thing that you're doing, you know what I mean? You are viewing it as a chore. Like this could be anything from like work to chores, finances, doing the dishes, whatever it is that you have to do. Like taking that perspective, in my opinion, like makes it 10 times worse, and it immediately forfeits all of your power. But once you can say what, like anything you can do to romanticize that experience is gonna benefit you, and it's gonna do it for like a number of reasons. Like even if we're talking about, I'll give you an example. So for a long time I was really in this energy, and I did not like to cook because I like to eat, I like to enjoy food, but the process of cooking to me just didn't make sense. Like I didn't see the value in the process of things. Like I just wanted the outcome. And I think being in such a like masculine, I heard this once too, which is like feminine is like process focused and like masculine is outcome focused. And we live in a very masculine society, and I think for a very long time, like everything was very outcome focused, you know what I mean? But like literally life is about the journey. Like it is about the process. And I truly didn't start seeing results in my life until I focused on the process. Because if you can focus on building a good process and an enjoyable process, not only are you going to have fun the whole entire time that you're creating things, but your results are going to be great too, because you've mastered the process. Like everything stems from the process. It's like the root of everything, you know what I mean? And the outcome is just the fruit that is born, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, going back to that, like I really hated cooking because I just wanted to eat, you know what I mean? And I would usually I would start cooking when I was hungry. So I'd just be like, I need to just get through this, and I just throw it together, and I wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't be an art. Like there would be no romance or magic to it. Like I was just trying to feed myself, you know? And a very subtle shift that has changed my life is just enjoying the process of cooking. You know what I mean? Like even just putting like a little bit more time and energy and love into your food, and putting a little bit of a garnish on it, making it a little bit pretty, maybe adding a little bit of lemon to your water, like having a glass of wine while you cook, putting on some jazz, like maybe putting on an apron, like anything to just be like, I'm having fun, I'm playing, I'm enjoying this process. It makes the outcome so much better, and it makes the process better, because now instead of you just trying to get through something, you're actually enjoying it, and it enhances the experience. And even if we talk about actual like food and the frequency and energy of food, like now you're infusing that energy into the thing that you're consuming. So I think especially with cooking, like it's an art. Like there's kind of a beautiful process there in my experience. But like this could be with anything, like doing laundry, dishes. I think it's especially important for like our jobs, you know what I mean? And I remember like when I was living in California, I had just moved there, and I had like no money. Like I was broke. I landed a job, and I was like, I basically like had to ride my bike to work. I rode like 12 miles to work. Like I was really like starting from scratch and starting fresh, but like I romanticized the heck out of my life at that point. Even though I had like literally nothing, I was like, I imagined myself as a character, you know what I mean? Because it was for the plot. Like I was like, she's on an adventure, like she's riding her bike to work, like she's making it happen, like she's paying her bills. Like you have to hype yourself up like that. Like view yourself like a character in a movie. Even if you work like 2 jobs, or you're a single mom, like life might be hard, and you can take so much pressure off yourself by just making the subtle shift and being your biggest hero, like looking at yourself from the elevated perspective and being like, yes, like she's doing this, like she's working hard, like she's doing the thing, instead of just like dreading it and like dragging yourself through it. Like I think the more you can just kind of lighten things and like view it as a game, and like view it as romantic and beautiful, that you come here to like play this character, no matter what phase of life you're in. Like there's so many different roles to play and so many different characters, and you're probably never going to be, you know, this character again. You're never going to be in this current phase of life that you're in right now. So I think the more that you can romanticize that, the better. And I think like, you know, talking about how that influences manifestation, like doing this does a couple of things. The first thing is that it makes us present. So instead of just trying to like rush through something, we're now actually present and immersed in the experience that we're having. And even if we talk about manifestation, like the only time that you are actually available to like all possibilities exist in the present moment. But in order to access those different states, you have to be present, because so often we're living in some future experience. Like we're worrying, we're trying to plan, we're trying to figure out what's going to happen in the future, or we're in the past. We're running by automatic programs and just recycling old experiences. And both of these are very unconscious. It's only when we're truly present do we actually have access to all possibilities. You know what I mean? Like, we're not just being run by a program or a story. Now all of the stories are available to us for, you know, we can choose whatever we want in those moments. So that's the first thing I think it does, is it brings us presence, which ultimately unlocks all possibilities. And ultimately, like, we want to be present in our life. Like, you want to be here, you want to be immersed in the experience, you want to enjoy it, even if you're doing inherently like mundane things. You know what I mean? The second thing that it does is it tells our subconscious that we're out of survival mode. So even if we talk about manifestation, like, we have to be in a different frequency in order to be able to create, in order to access like the sandbox mode, in order to create things in our reality. We can't be in those lower vibrational energies, like in survival mode. When you're very contracted, it's harder for you to tap into different realities, into different identities. But when we can actually romanticize experiences and make them fun and make them playful, that tells your mind, that tells yourself, your subconscious, that you're in play mode. You're in creation mode, you're out of survival mode. So it's kind of a signal to yourself to enter like a different type of energy, if you know what I mean, that actually allows you to kind of have more ability to actually influence your state and ultimately your reality. And the third thing I think that it does is, like, even if we talk about, and I'll kind of circle back to like what I said about manifestation being in a lacking energy, because like I've been in times where like I'm really trying to manifest something and I have like maybe a long like ritual or something. It's on my mind a lot, you know what I mean? Because I really want to manifest this thing and I'm focusing hard on how to actually manifest it. But by doing that, I put myself in the state of lack, because I'm always like, oh, how do I manifest this thing? How do I manifest it? Blah, blah, blah. But like, if you think about, if you're trying to manifest a ton of money, and the way to tune to that reality, the way to actually make that happen, is to become the person that has already experienced that. And the way to do that is to replicate those emotions and basically become the person, close that gap between, you know, the reality of the person experiencing that and where you're at now. So if you're someone that, you know, is working a job that you don't like and it is stressful, that you can still manifest from that place, but you have to get out of that energy of like, I hate this, I just want to leave, I need to go somewhere else, I just want to get out of this situation. You can't manifest by pushing against your current circumstances. You have to manifest by integrating your desired circumstances, your ideal outcome. And romanticizing life is a massive way to do this, because like if you had all of the money in the world, like, are you still not gonna, you would literally be in play mode. Like, say money wasn't a thing and all of your needs were met for the rest of your life. Everything was taken care of. You never have to work again. You have all the money to do whatever you want. You literally get to do whatever you want. Like, just think about that and think about what that feeling would be. And most people can't like imagine that. And I get it, because it took me a long time to actually be able to embody this. And I think that's fair, because like we are indoctrinated with like feeling like we have to survive, and like put like all these very human real things are put on us, and so we get put into survival mode. And so I think it can be kind of a challenge to then be like, now you're telling me, like, it's hard for people to imagine what that would even be like. And most people don't even think about it or know what they would do if money wasn't a thing. Like, if you truly had complete freedom in your life, like, what would you really be doing? You know what I mean? And I've had a couple of periods where I've been unemployed and I wanted freedom so bad, like when I was working my job. And then when I was actually unemployed, I did not know what to do with myself. And there were a lot of lessons in that. And to me, like, the biggest one of all is that you can enjoy any experience that you're having. It's just about your state of mind. And the second one is that, like, even though I was free and I was unemployed, I was still in survival mode. I still had anxiety that I wasn't producing, that I wasn't accomplishing things, even though my needs were met. I was on unemployment, my bills were getting paid, but like those instincts, those feelings still existed, and there was a lot of healing to be done through that. And the other thing I noticed is like I would still try to, even though I had all the time in the world, I still wouldn't romanticize things. I would still rush through things and dread tasks. But it's like, if you think about like what it would truly be like to have all of the money in the world and like total freedom, you wouldn't need to be in survival mode. And so I think it's just like a whole paradigm shift of like, oh, like when I don't need to be in survival mode, like life actually can be beautiful. You know what I mean? Like I actually can take the time to like enjoy this, or like make this beautiful, or make this romantic. And in fact, if you don't, life is very lifeless, because the purpose of survival has been removed. And so if that's all you've been used to, romance to you just feels like such a foreign concept. But when you're truly in that state, you realize that romance really is the whole point of everything. And I'm not saying like survival isn't important and people don't have very challenging situations, but like when survival is removed, like truly the only value in life is the romance and the magic that we actually create. So I guess I'm just saying, like, the more we can actually bring that into life, like, not only does it make life enjoyable, it also ends up making your circumstances better just by shifting into a new energy. Because the person who has all of that money, the person who has the reality you want, the person who is living a life of freedom and abundance, like, they get to be abundant, they get to be in play mode, they get to, you know, draw things out a little bit more and make things a little bit more extravagant, and put on the nice outfits and, you know, put on the fun music and you know, play the board game, and like they get to play, you know what I mean? So it's a totally different energy, you know. So like I guess to summarize, like the third thing I think it does is it puts us in the energy of play, and it puts us in the energy of having an abundance. Because if we're still coming from that place of lack and like not having, we're not aligned with the reality of being taken care of being secure, of being in play mode. Because that version of you, they get to have fun, they get to romanticize life, it puts us in a state of abundance. And even when I think about, like, every time I've tried to manifest money, the more I focus on like money and like trying to make it happen, usually it ends up having the opposite effect. And the times when I focus on everything but money, and I mean that, like, I mean in terms of romanticizing life, like when I'm focusing on like eating nourishing foods and like taking more walks and like enjoying my shower and like making art and like doing things that are fun and playful and like make my heart feel full and like make my energy feel full, that's when I end up manifesting more money and like usually doing less for it, you know what I mean? Because it puts you in that frequency of abundance. And I think this is true for a lot of people. Like, I think there's a lot of like baggage that comes with money, and so I think like a lot of times when we're trying to manifest money, like just thinking about money can sometimes have the opposite effect, or like we can sometimes like grind with that a little bit. So try this, like try just focusing on anything that makes you feel full and makes you feel abundant. Because realistically, if money wasn't a thing, if you're a multi-billionaire, like you are the top of the top, you're taken care of, you're good, your children's children are set, you're good, you're in play mode. Like, do you think they're constantly thinking about money? I'm not saying that they're not thinking about it, because it's still a tool and it's an energy, but it's a lot more detached. Because now I think like when we don't make a lot, we're very close to it and we want it so bad. There's so much attachment and also resistance to it. But if you really just had as much as you could possibly want, it's just a tool. Like, it comes and it goes, and you really don't have to think about it that much, because money isn't the thing that you and this is true with any manifestation, it's the feeling that we want. And ironically, in order to actually manifest, we have to embody that feeling. So you can really give yourself the thing you're looking for first, and it'll end up resulting in that thing ultimately happening. And I just feel like romanticizing life is a really, really key way in my experience to actually do this, because you're looking for the magic, you're looking for the beauty, for the freedom, you're looking to live life, to be free, to do the things that you want to do. That's the luxury of money, and that's the reason that so many people want it, is we want to feel safe and secure, we want to be able to play instead of just survive, you know what I mean? So anyway, I hope this was helpful. If you guys stuck around, please give me a like and comment below. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think, and consider sticking around and giving me a subscribe. I love you guys so much. Thanks for listening to me yap. So bye-bye.